Hello. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here this afternoon with us at our virtual platform for the scientific lectures hosted by Charge Archaeology Authority. Today, we are pleased to welcome Dr. Kристофер and his team, our special guest from Austria. Since 2019, joint investigations of the site Kalba K4 were conducted by the Charge Archaeology Authority and the Australian Archaeological Institute of Australian Academy of Sciences. The research led by Dr. Kристофер and Prof. Dr. Barbara Hodges focuses especially on the Nar occupation of the site and raw material procurement strategies of the site's inhabitants. Dr. Kристофер is working at the Department of Prehistory and Western Asia, Northeast Africa Archaeology of the Australian Archaeological Institute. He's an expert on the Chalcolithic and early Bronze Age period. His main research interest focuses on network and communication system and the geological and mineralogical studies. He has participated in various projects in Europe and the Near East, for example, Turkey, Greece, Lebanon, Iran, Romania, Italy, and of course, Emirates. Since 2018, Kристофер is Deputy Research Group Leader of Prehistoric Phenomena. Within, he is responsible for the Middle Ages, covering the time frame of the Copper and Bronze Ages. Today, Kристофер and his team will present the preliminary result of the 2021 field session. Dr. Schwal, mic is yours.
Okay, one moment. Okay. I hope that everybody can see the presentation.
Yes.
So first of all, good afternoon, everybody from Kalba. We would like to thank Dr. Sabar for organizing this virtual lecture, and we are quite glad to continue our field excavations and investigation at Kalba this year, despite the pandemic situation is still lasting. In this short presentation, we will focus on the conducted work at Kalba K4. But first, let's have a look where the site is situated. Kalba is located close to the seashore on the Gulf of Oman and embedded into a framework of Nar sites on the southeastern Arabian Peninsula. Therefore, the general objectives of our case study at Kalba is to analyze the function of the settlement in the context of inter-regional maritime and land-based networks in this region. Here we have a look on the site of Kalba with all the architectural features which are integrated in this plan, dating from the 3rd to the 1st millennium BC. Quite prominent in the middle, you can see the massive Nar period tower construction out of mud bricks, which is also one of the topic in our today's talk regarding the Nar occupation of the site. But today, as you can see on the east of the plan, we will talk about our new investigations in Trench E1 and E2. During the 2021 field season, several research objectives were defined. And two major points I would like to express. It's the continuation of the excavation at Kalba outside the massive granite retaining wall in the eastern part of the trench in order to find potential structures which are dating to the early Bronze Age and also the exterior part of the early Bronze Age wall. Another major actions during this field season was the continuation of systematic sampling of holistic raw material sources based on artifacts from Kalba, that means in detail chert, chalcedony, and agate, to investigate raw material procurement strategies of this coastal site. But first, let's have a short review on the results of the analyzed materials which were taken from the 2020 season. In 2020, especially the Southern profile of Trench E1 was investigated to record a complete stratigraphical sequence from the early Bronze Age to the Iron Age period. The results of the analyzed 16 samples provide important dates for distinct sediment layers you can see here in the profile. Within the southern profile, we recognize the fireplace up on leveling layers, and the leveling layer here we're covering the early Bronze Age structures underneath. The obtained botanical samples of date stones, mollusks, provide an absolute chronological position of this area and its subsequent use after leveling activities in the Wadi sub-period, that means the Middle Bronze Age period, dating around 1750 to 1615 calibrated BC. New radiocarbon dates are also provided by an older occupation level with 2 fireplaces. Inside fireplace 9, that's the lower one here, we found a stone accumulation up on the filling, mainly consisting of ash and charcoal. The radiocarbon dates are roughly dating between 2450 and 2200 calibrated BC, and therefore confirm an even older occupation of the site in this area. And that's quite important because we can see here a part of the early Bronze Age retaining wall construction, which was installed later. That means that due to the construction of the retaining wall, older sediment layers were cut off and taken away for this purpose. Outside the massive early Bronze Age retaining wall, further excavations continued in an area adjacent to the north here of the deep test pit in order to gain more insights about the stratigraphy and subsequent use of the former ditch area. During these investigations, 4 fireplaces on an occupation level were detected. The fireplaces here were used for cooking activities, indicated by numerous remains of charcoal, date stones, fish bones, and mollusks, which were found inside. Interestingly, the botanical remains found inside the fireplace provide radiocarbon dates, which attest their use in early Bronze Age times too. In combination with the new radiocarbon dates, the 6.7 meter excavated stratigraphy shows interesting results. The foundation of the wall suggests construction during the late 3rd millennium BC. However, absolute dates provided by the fireplaces on the top of the filled ditch, roughly dating contemporaneous to the approximately 3 meter deeper material which we found there. And this evidence indicates that the ditch situated on the front of the retaining wall here was just in use for a really short period. Having now a closer look at the radiocarbon dates, which were modeled by Susanne Lindauer, 10 date to the Yumanar and 5 to the Wadi sub-period. These dates here suggest the hiatus at the end of the 3rd and beginning of the 2nd millennium BC, but this possibility needs to be confirmed by further excavations in other areas of the site, because the gap here could also just reflect missing layers caused by subsequent construction processes in this tell site. Additionally, the reservoir effect, which was also determined by Susanne Lindauer, of the mollusks clearly indicates a change between the early and the Middle Bronze Age. The decreasing reservoir effect reflects the varying sea level change and an increasing drier climate during 2500 and 1600 calibrated BC. The botanical remains, which were studied by Kathleen Deckers, provide additional information on this topic. It turned out that the charcoals were strongly dominated by Rhizophore in contrast to Avicennia marina, which still exists at core Kalba. You can see it in this picture right there. These results are interesting because Avicennia marina is related to more freshwater conditions, while Rhizophora more fresh the saltwater freshwater conditions. It means, Avicennia marina is saltwater based and it's a forest freshwater based. Despite a trend towards an increasing drier climate indicated by the marine reservoir effect from approximately 3000 BC onwards, the botanical analysis from Kalba revealed that at this site, a more wetter and therefore a more favorable environmental conditions existed than in other regions and for sure today. But now let's continue with the new excavation results from our this year campaign. Based on the 2020 features and excavation results, our aim for this season was to investigate layers outside the EVA retaining wall. Therefore, we opened an area within our both trenches E1 and E2, measuring 7 to 6 meters. You can see it here, the yellow square. In trench E2, the excavations of a level with numerous pits were continued. Due to leveling activities resulting from the modern agricultural use of this area, the former surface of the occupation level is not preserved. However, in this area, stratigraphically, the pits penetrate the levels covering the architecture of the Iron Age 1 fortification, and therefore the pits have to be related to the Iron Age 1 or an even younger occupation of this site. An indication for the assignment to an occupation, presumably to the Iron Age 2 period, is provided by pottery found within these pits. And these are showing characteristic decorations of this period, like, for example, incised motifs on large storage jars with thick walls and outturned rims, carinated bowls with crisscross here and zigzag paintings. After removing the leveling layer below the pit level, we were able to detect the continuation of the Iron Age 1 fortification with its interior and exterior wall here. Let's have a look on the plan. It's much more better visible. The resulting ditch between the two walls was excavated until the occupation level of this construction was reached. It's here. This band you can see in the profile, and the fine-grained silty and sand sediment of this filling indicates, moreover, that this structure was filled up slowly before it was finally leveled here on the top and the new occupation level was constructed. Below the Iron Age 1 fortification and the partially preserved fireplace level, surface levels and associated wall structures of two different architectural phases, here named mud brick complex 1 and mud bricks complex 2, were uncovered, which are visible in the profile underneath the interior Iron Age 1 retaining wall. Architecture of the first building level were tested underneath leveling layers and covered by an eastward sloping accumulation of melted mud brick debris depositioned on a surface level. The debris belongs to an approximately northwest-southeast aligned mud brick wall, partially detected in the trenches and the western profile between E1 and E2, that's here. In this area below the Iron Age 1 ditch, in the middle, the wall was destroyed by a deep disturbance, possibly resulting from earlier excavations. The remains of the mud brick walls were badly preserved, but nevertheless, a remaining height up to 5 brick layers can be observed. And based on the boundaries in the profiles, as well on the surface level, an assumed width about 3 meters can be reconstructed. Having now a look at the next level, the second mud brick complex was again attested underneath level layers in form of an eastward sloping accumulation of melted mud brick debris situated again on the surface level. The debris here belongs to an approximately northwest, southeast aligned mud brick wall, which was detected mostly in the east of the profile and a bit more to the west. And the bricks of the western face of the mud of this wall were quite good preserved, and we could detect them up to a height of 6 layers. The eastern part of the wall, in contrast, wall tilts steeply here to the profile in the eastern direction. Inside the wall, an approximately semicircular carved out interface with a diameter of about 40 centimeters was recognized. And this negative most probably belongs to an integrated post supporting these mud brick construction. The northwest southeast alignment of the wall of mud brick complex 1 can be reconstructed of about 3 meters. Additionally, the wall of mud brick complex 2 here and its debris is visible in a width of 1.8 meter. And even though the exact width cannot be determined, it is striking that in this area here, all 3 architectural phases, that means from top to down, the Iron Age, mud brick complex 1 and mud brick complex 2, they have the same alignment and course. And furthermore, the associated levels of both mud brick complexes here, they do not provide evidence of any domestic features, wherefore we designate the walls of mud brick complex 1 and 2 tentatively for sure as sections of possible enclosure walls. Interestingly, it was like always one of the last days of the excavation. Inside the former Iron Age 1 ditch area, no further surface or occupation level were detected below mud brick complex 2 so far. But here in the lower left area, a section of a massive stone wall was attested in the southwestern corner of the trench. Taking into account the stone size as well as the course of the wall, it is most probable that the preserved top of the exterior early Bronze Age retaining wall was reached in this area. And this assumption, which we are following here, is based, or this reconstruction is based on an assumption. And that means we would have here a ditch with a width of about 4.5 meters, which can be reconstructed. And therefore, a stratigraphic connection from the present day surface level to the presumed top of the exterior retaining wall of the early Bronze Age ditch was accomplished during this season. For sure, to support this hypothesis, however, further excavations are necessary to excavate the outline and also the filling of these ditch construction. Now let's take a jump to the material studies. And regarding the preliminary results of our studies here during this season, the highlights should be mentioned in context of already conducted analysis. Starting with the evidence of stone vessel manufacturing, during the 2021 excavations, 7 fragments of soft stone vessels were discovered dating from the early Bronze Age to the Iron Age period. One soft stone vessel, that's this here in the middle, was found on early Bronze Age occupation level, and it's featuring the typical Omanar style decoration with a horizontal carved line underneath the rim and circles which are central dots. And in this piece, shallow carved out round depression in between the circles complete decoration. Interestingly, a semi-finished stone vessel fragment was found in a leveling layer and supports an on-site production, as briefly mentioned by Daniel Ashford and Carl Phillips. Especially the manufacturing marks you can see here on the rim, but also inside and outside the piece, similar to an already published fragment from Kalba, indicate the use of different tools for the production of these vessel types. The analysis of manufacturing traces would be necessary here to investigate this topic in more details. Regarding the metallurgical activities, different stages of the chain operatoire are recorded in the fine assemblage which provide evidence for on-site production, beside a fragment of copper ore, slags, melting residues, and presumably a fragment of a crucible. Here, a pounder and an anvil were excavated. This evidence can be embedded in recently conducted analysis of copper objects from Kalba, excavations, and ores which we surveyed from Wadi al-Hilo, approximately 15 kilometers far away from the site in the mountains. Here you can see the analytical results of the lead isotopy, including 2 ore samples from Wadi al-Hilo and 4 objects from Kalba, plotted together with ore signatures from Oman, Iran, Jordan, and Cyprus. The ore samples, as well as slags from Kalba, correspond to the signatures of the Oman deposits. Only one fragment of a needle or wire, that's this piece here, is also plotting with signatures from Cyprus and Iran. However, according to Ernst Pernitzker, who was in charge of these studies, the lead and the gold ratios of Cyprus copper are mostly higher and the silver contents are lower, and therefore a provenance from Cyprus can be excluded. Now let's combine the analytical lead isotopic results with ore deposits and known signatures of artifacts from sites in the UAE. Specific trends become visible. It is clear that artifacts from the UAE show high variations, as you can see, whereas the signatures from Kalba and from Wadi al-Hilo correspond best to the deposits here from Oman. Therefore, ore deposits of the Al-Hajjah Mountains provide best fitting reference signatures. However, regarding this piece of a needle or wire, this fragment and the results could also fit to some copper source located in Iran. To substantiate this, however, more samples from the source of Iran would be needed. In contrast to copper ore deposits, chert sources are not known from the immediate catchment area of the site. So far, 8 lithic objects, including 1 tool and 7 flakes, were discovered during the excavation at Kalba. 5 were found in sealed early Bronze Age layers, indicating the procurement of silicious raw materials and the production on site as early as the early Bronze Age period in the 3rd millennium BC. The geological map you can see here indicates, although that sources of chert raw materials are located beyond the mountain range in the western foothills of the Al-Hajjah Mountains. Therefore, we started systematic sampling and analysis of chert sources and artifacts from Kalba in 2020 in order to reveal their provenance and assess possible chert procurement strategies. Of special interest was the Bahais mountain range, approximately 50 kilometers beeline from Kalba, as preliminary surveys of chert sources indicated. For our approach, we sampled 5 different locations of the Bahais range during the geological survey in 2020. That's Jebel Fire North, South, Jebel Bahais North, East, and West, which are located here on the map. The previous microscopic and geochemical analysis conducted by my colleague Michael Brandl showed clear differences between 3 investigated geological locations at Jebel Fire North, Jebel Bahais North, and Jebel Bahais East, demonstrated here in characteristic microphotographs. Subsequently, it was possible to correlate the majority of the lithic artifacts excavated in Kalba to these geological source locations. 6 chipped stone objects can be microscopically assigned to major geological units represented by the older Jebel Fire North and Jebel Buhays East Formation, in contrast to the younger Jebel Buhays North Formation here in blue. In combination with the geochemical results, it is possible to gain a fine-grained insight into the church resource management of the inhabitants of Kalba and beyond, indicated by the church artifacts from the site HLO1 in Wadi al-Hilo, which also chemically belongs to the Buhays area. Our results therefore highlight the importance of the entire Buhays range as a prehistoric lithic raw material source and the potential of this combined methodology for church provenance analysis in the wider region of the Northern Emirates. The 2021 field season has now completed the list of church sources in this complex. But there is also another materials. One jasper object was discovered at Kalba, which is why we additionally surveyed for this raw material type. We were able to locate various outcrops of jasper east of the Buhays mountain range along geological fault lines. Geochemistry will show on this bead and the raw material taken from the location the potential of differentiating these visually very homogeneous materials from different outcrops and hopefully allow us to trace the source of the lithic artifact from Kalba. Stone beads made of chalcedony and agate were also found during this year's season. Bound to igneous rocks in the north of the investigation area, close to Manama, chalcedony and various multicolored cryptocrystalline quartz modifications such as agate and carnelian can be found in this region. Through geochemical investigations, we will test the assumption of beads that beads made of local stone sources were found at Kalba. The results attest that chert from the Buhays range and mainly copper from the deposits in the Al-Hajjah mountains were brought to the settlement of Kalba in prehistoric times. The chert from the Buhays range was used by sites in and beyond the Al-Hajjah mountains as the site of Wadi al-Hilo HLO1 indicate. Due to the fact that among the assemblage of Kalba, flakes were found, it can be assumed that the raw material rather than finished lithic products were brought to the site. Analytical results attest that the majority of the lithic artifacts from Kalba, as well as the object from HLO1 in Wadi al-Hilo, belongs to the same source region. To identify now the provenance of the jasper flake and the two stone beads, further geochemical analysis of the surveyed raw materials from altogether now 42 geological locations will hopefully answer this question. In general, these results of the material analysis offer really considerable potential for investigating and assessing the significance of the use of mineral resources at the prehistoric site of Kalba. Taking these results of the excavation together with the lithic material studies into consideration, Kalba seems to have functioned as a knot between maritime trade networks and routes which are leading to the inner part of the Arabian Peninsula. And finally, we'd like to thank especially our colleagues from the Sharjah Archaeology Authority and for sure the Austrian Embassy in Abu Dhabi, Dr. Liebmann, for their great support during our field investigations 2021. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Christoph, for the nice lecture and for the important information and for the preliminary results in Kalba site. Thank you so much. Before starting the discussion, please, I would like to ask our audience to fill the form. It's sent by the link in the Zoom chat. Please fill the form for the questionnaire of the lectures and also the second link for the name and email address for getting the certificate for this lectures. Any questions? There's a raised hand from Dr. Barbara. Dr. Barbara, you are welcome. Dr. Hodges?
No, this was not a question. This was just an applauding to Christoph, to congratulate the result.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Dr. Christoph, some audience asked for your email. If could you please write it down?
My email?
Yes.
Yes, sure.
And we have Patrice from Port Clara.
Hi, Christoph. Congratulations on a great talk, and your site looks really interesting. I wanted to ask, with the things you found about the fireplaces, and then you were talking about the retaining walls or the possible retaining walls, have you done analysis of possible flaws through micromorphology or sampling profiles to see if you do have retaining walls or what relates to habitation?
Thanks, Claire. That's a very good question. We also discussed it. So first of all, relating the occupation levels. So last year we excavated the occupation level with the fireplaces. So that was more or less our start for this year's season, to go in more in detail, to just have a look what's outside the retaining wall and maybe excavate more domestic or some other features which are related to these hearths and fireplaces. So we found the surface levels now of really two massive walls, which not seems to be something which is related to domestic structures, but you're completely right. The fireplaces could indicate really a lot of, or they are really bearing a lot of potential for doing micromorphological studies. But that's something we have to, to approach in a certain way, because the material and the sediment also of this ashy material inside the fireplaces, and it's silty, sandy, it's really soft. So we need to fix it first before taking samples out of the profiles, because else it's not that easy, and a lot of these profile structures could collapse. But that's something which is, I guess, also mandatory for different profiles and different levels, but it's something we have to investigate further on.
Thank you. Any other questions? Dr. Barbara, yes, mic is yours.
Yes, thank you. Well, Christoph, what is your idea? What was actually protected within these massive new fortification walls in the third millennium? Because this seems to be really a massive construction, and it already looks like a massive fortification. And I wonder, do you think of a domestic settlement or a village inside, or is it more like a early Bronze Age castle? Thank you.
Thank you for this question. I guess, yeah, that's a well-debated topic. What are these towers and what are they? Are they platforms? Are they towers itself, or what's the function? They are also related to irrigation system with a ditch or something like this. But when you're just having looking also on the retaining wall, which is quite massive, and for sure it's just a part which was excavated here because it was leveled in the subsequent periods, it must have been a really, a real landmark close to the sea, which must have been visible really from a far distance. So that's a quite important fact, the visibility, and also the massive walls which could for sure protect something. The question about the goods, that's something we are trying to approach, because unfortunately inside this tower there are a lot of compartments, but they were just filled with sand. So we don't have any certain clue about the kind of storage function of this tower. It's called a tower. But what we know is, and that's our approach, just to have to find out what are, for example, what could be related materials, or what could be the significance for the site. And we know that mineral resources seems to have played a role, if a major role, as kind of trading good, because this could be a function, this could be something. We know it's close to the seashore, and yeah, we know that at Kalba there are imports present from the older excavations, from the Indus regions, but also from Iran and Mesopotamia. That means this could have been, one function of this, but to approach this question of settlement or just a castle, for this topic and for this answer, more excavations are for sure needed.
Dr. Christopher, could you please open the mic?
Yes, it should be open.
It's closed again. Yes, it's open now.
Yeah.
We have also Mr. Alexander. Mr. Alexander, yes, the mic is yours.
Yes, hello, this is Andreas Liebmann. Alexander is my political counselor. I'm the ambassador here in Abu Dhabi. And I followed your presentation. Christoph, really congratulations, and I'm very much looking forward to see the excavation this weekend, and then thank you for keeping it open for me on Friday. So first of all, again, congratulations, and what's for me really impressive is also the objects you found, which I think are very impressive proof of the importance of the site and the manufacturing aspect in the site. So it will be very interesting. My question is, Christoph, do you have already an idea how and in which context this new, I think, very important excavation results can be published? What are we going to expect in the near future?
Thank you very much, Andreas, for these, for congratulations, and also we're looking forward to see you on the site. The publication strategy, that's something we need to discuss for sure based on the results. But what we're doing annually is that we are attending on conferences, and there's for sure the conferences which are quite well known in this area. It's the British Society. That's something, and on the other hand, the publication of the overall excavation results, there are a lot of different topics which first have to be analyzed. It means there the stone stone objects and the raw material procurement strategies, which are different pieces of a puzzle which needs to put taken together for creating a bigger picture. And that's something we first would like to aim, and then we will definitely make plans for final publications.
Christopher, what was in particular a very pleasant surprise for me was the softstone fragments. Whether these softstone vessels might have been exported somewhere on the Arab Peninsula. Is there already some ideas where possibly Kalba exported its own products?
That's a good question. We don't have any hints for this, but the first step we would like to approach now is that we know that there was manufacturing going on site, but for us, it's also quite important about the accessibility of raw materials. That means we're also now looking for suitable geological locations where this softstone could crop out. And when we find something like this in our crop, which hopefully we can undertake within the next days before we are going to leave, then we can also think about possible extent of kind of distribution. But so far, it's just one piece out of, for sure, a small excavation area, but it's quite a good result. We know so far that we are dealing with a site where also the manufacturing took place.
Great.
Thank you.
Very much looking forward to see you tomorrow.
We too.
Thank you, Dr. Christoph.